Welcome to CMMS Radio, a podcast and general resource for all things CMMS, computerized maintenance management software, from selection to implementation to help you make better choices and have a successful CMMS journey. We'll bring in experts along the way to help us learn more about CMMS, facilities operations, and much more. If you need help with the CMMS project, send a message at CMMSradio.com using the What's on Your Mind link. Suggest a topic, share your CMMS story, or ask questions. Thanks for tuning in. Today, we're joined by Joe Kuhn, CMRP, President, Lean-Driven Reliability, 3+ decades of plant management experience. He's passionate about how maintenance and reliability is deployed at plants. He's an author, speaker, and has a YouTube channel called Reliability Man. And be sure to get his book, Zero to Hero, How to Jumpstart Your Reliability Journey, given today's business challenges, which makes me chuckle because in 2023, everything's just getting wild. So, Joe, welcome to CMMS Radio.
I am super excited to be here, Greg. Thanks for the invite. Maintenance and reliability cultures are so important to me. One of the big reasons I retired a little bit early is to get the message out that, you can have a reliable plant. And the best practices can be implemented in your plant, despite all the frustration that's out there. So I'm excited to talk with your audience.
Yeah, and they get to learn from you. And you said it, right? When maintenance and reliability is this thing that somebody wants to improve at their plant, at their facilities, whatever the type of organization it is, that's really going to be, with getting the culture moving in the right direction, people feel like they can actually go and do the good work they love doing. Do you think that people overreact when they think about how hard that is, even though you and I both know you're going to have to do the hard work? I think you have some philosophies on how you can kind of think about that differently and actually get some shit done.
Yeah. Whenever you're introduced to like a reliability and maintenance problem at your plant, say you're 100% reactive, whatever you got going on, equipment's not running right, and somebody walks in the door and says, "Hey, I can fix this, but it's going to take culture change." First thing, everybody puts their head down in their desk and starts pounding it, because a culture change, it just seems so hard. And what I've been able to do over the years, and I did it wrong a lot, but you learn from that, is really culture changes one experience at a time. All you got to do is create a new experience for people. And if you create one new positive event a week, after a year, you got a lot of momentum. So don't look at, culture change as some big monster. Look, hey, what positive improvement can we make today? And that's, to me, what I've been able to do in maintenance and reliability organizations is let's just improve one thing at a time, and start with the things that are frustrating the craftspeople. The craftspeople I've hired all these people with great attitudes and great skills to come into plant, and every one of them want to do a good job. Okay? They want to do a good job, and our systems and processes don't allow them to do a good job. And that's what motivates me is I've seen it be a lot better. And there's so much frustration, in the eyes of the maintenance craftspeople because they're not allowed to do things right. And, that's my motivation. That's why I wrote a book. That's why I make my YouTube videos. And that's why I do speaking and writing, is to really just to lay out a path. And really, I'm actually targeting maintenance managers and plant managers, as well as technicians. Here's what you can do. Very specifically, what you can do Monday, not just pie in the sky kind of stuff. Just start doing this Monday.
Yeah. And that's, really when I was talking about, we were chatting a little bit earlier, and I was telling you about, I had seen your video that came out in Reliable Plant, the digital version of Reliable Plant. That's that publication that Noria puts out.
Right.
And you were giving advice for new maintenance managers. And what I liked about it is it was a quick, easy to understand and impactful video. You were just giving your thoughts like you're doing right now. And I wanted to talk about those a little bit because it made me think about computerized maintenance management software and how, I mean, for a lot of organizations and for all the people, we see things like, people are kind of overlooking, well, they're not kind of, they're overlooking the frontline workforce and the doers that need to be involved in this decision because if they can buy in on the why and it can kind of meet their why, they're going to buy in and they're going to say, yeah, fine, I'll use that. You make it simple for me. I'm going to get it done. So I wanted to just kind of touch on that. Do you mind if I blast through kind of the 7 things that I saw in there?
Oh, go ahead. Go
All
ahead.
right. All right. So number 1 was know your job is to get the best out of others. Be a servant leader. Number 2, you must win the bureaucracy battle. And that's really around simplifying everything. And then number 3, give away all credit to your team. So don't worry about taking credit. Really highlight that they've gotten these things done. Only pick 3 to 5 leverage points when you come in to drive results. So as a new maintenance manager, you want to be careful not to bite off more than you can chew. Establish a go and see culture. I love this, Joe, because you're saying get on the plant floor, get out there, get amongst them. And then you also want to get yourself a coach, someone in the organization you can trust to kind of keep you accountable, be an extra set of eyes about how you're doing what you're doing. And number 7, this is excellent. You'll make mistakes, admit those mistakes and learn. So how does this all fold into the culture? And, from a CMMS perspective for everybody, just take this in what Joe's going to say, because it all kind of plays into that and everything else you do in maintenance and reliability. So back to you.
Yeah. Hey, an awful lot to cover there.
Yeah,
Take a look at the article, right?
sure.
I love the folks at Noria. I do write for them, and I've given them full permission to use all my videos. So they'll just go out and capture some of my videos that I have on YouTube. I've got about 250 of them on reliability maintenance, and I do have about another 200 on retirement. So just I give the people what they want. But hey, the important thing to start with, and people jump over this, and I think it's so critical you understand, is that every single reliability and maintenance best practice, everyone, including having a CMMS system, the goal of that tool is to eliminate waste. It's to eliminate waste, inefficiency. So like a CMS, what's it doing? It captures the best practice, okay? It captures all the parts and pieces you need to do a job, okay? And if you have a gearbox or a piece of equipment that goes down on a routine basis, it's the historian so that you can problem solve to have that, mean time between failure get bigger, okay? So every single tool, I can argue just like that, is designed to eliminate waste. So, I'm a simple guy. Hey, at my plant, I need to go out on the shop floor and see the waste firsthand, what's happening. And when you spend a day, 2, 3 days with a crew of maintenance people, call them mechanics, and you see what they have to put up with, and you see that they start work at 7 and they really don't have all their parts and pieces for the job till 9 o'clock. I mean, they don't want to wait 2 hours, but they're looking for that the lockout tagout procedure. Where's the bearing at that you said was supposed to be here? All that is just waste and inefficiency that is causing, disgruntled employees. I get disgruntled watching this happen. So, one of the critical things that I drive into leaders is you got to know the waste that's at your plant and then apply the tool that addresses that waste. If you came in, and I know this is a podcast on a CMMS, which I think is foundational to a program, but if you aren't given the mechanics parts, pieces, safety instruction, and the production's not giving up the equipment when they say you're going to give it for 12 hours and you give it to them for 3, if you don't address some of that stuff first and says, hey, we want to optimize our paperwork, it's going to be a mob. It's going to be a mob. So you got to know your waste first. And that's why, go and see culture is so critical. And so many leaders think they go and see. And that's walking from one meeting to the next meeting across the shop floor. I'm on the shop floor all the time. And then I ask, okay, show of hands. When was the last time you spent 8 hours dedicated on the shop floor watching a task? I've done that to groups of as high as 800. Not a single hand goes up in the air, and it's just so critical. We're applying tools blindly to waste that we don't understand. And I love that. That was number 5 on your list. Establish a go and see culture. But so critical that once you understand that every tool is attacking waste, and then you go and observe the waste, what you need to do is obvious, and the results will come.
I like this because I'm envisioning, some plant that I might have been in at some point, and what you're talking about, and how somebody's got to take this time to go and actually do that, right? Like shut out all the noise and actually be there, see it, talk to people. And it's the same exact thing in my mind now when it comes to companies implementing these solutions, right? CMMS or otherwise, enterprise asset management or otherwise, you've got to do really a bottom-up approach to it. So that's what I liked about, the go and see culture keeps you connected to what's actually happening. And people get moving so fast, they feel like, or they no longer can go and do that. Is that why that happens so often? Is that why you don't see any hands raised?
A lot of reasons. Most of the time, a company plant has had a maintenance or reliability issue, and it's cost them $500,000. Just throw out a number. Mm-hmm. And then they say, what can I buy? Because we're too busy. What can I buy to short circuit all this? And so they say, hey, what you need is planning and scheduling. Then you have to have a CMMS system. Okay, give me a CMMS system. Let's buy it. Let's train everybody in 15 minutes, and then all of our problems go away. And it never works. No. It never works. You got to understand, it's like they want to go from, step 0 to step 10. And when you're driving a culture change, you got to bring the people along with you. You got to walk a mile in their shoes, see what they see. And that $500,000 problem could have been a lubrication problem. And then, who knows? Could have been, contamination of the lube. And hey, let's talk to the mechanics. Let's look at the PM. Let's look at our equipment maintenance plan, see what's going on. Oh, it was contamination. We were getting water into the lube. It wasn't working right. That's why. Okay, so let's apply lubrication excellence to that equipment, and maybe to all equipment. Let's start there, because that's a waste we know we have. And I think people are busy. So instead of understanding the problem by go and see, they say, well, I want to write a check. And I've never, 100% failure rate if you go that way, 100%.
Yeah. And it's almost like everybody knows that.
This isn't a well-kept secret. If you go out of your office door, if you get out of the conference room, it's not a well-kept secret that everybody knows how to fix it. I said earlier, I'm a simple guy. I am a degreed engineer, but you just walk out with a group of mechanics and say, hey, this equipment failed last week. What do you guys think? Hey, I'm going to watch you guys do I know you guys are trying to do a good job here. I want to walk a mile in your shoes, see what you have to put up with. Let's do a PM on this piece of equipment. And then you just watch what they do, and you're saying, man, they don't have the right lockout tagout procedure. They don't have the right lubricant. They production is running the equipment wrong. And you just see all kinds of things. And that was, when I was working for Alcoa, that's the company I worked for 32 years. One of the assignments I had in there was the global director of reliability and maintenance. After I worked as a plant manager several times, they said, "Hey, Joe, what's your, what ideal job you want to have?" And I said, nobody, nobody's doing reliability and maintenance well. I've got a process that I think works. I'd like the opportunity to try that globally. And, so I had several locations, I think a little over 30. And the first thing I did when I went into a plant is I got the leadership team to go to the shop floor for 3 days. 3 days. We're going to go out. We had little teams. I would always be with the plant manager, and we'd go out there and we'll say, "Hey, we're going to watch a PM on this conveyor belt. We're going to watch a PM on this motor. We're going to watch them balance this gearbox," whatever it happens to be. And at the end of the first day, 8 hours of watching people work. That's actually hard to do, and not intervening. Greg, you can't intervene. You're just a fly on the wall. You can talk to the guys, but don't fix any problems. At the end of the first day, every time we would have a debrief of what we saw, and they say, "Joe, you're not going to believe this. This is the worst day we've ever had at the plant." To the plant, they all said that. "This is the worst day we've ever had. I've never seen it this bad." Then we go out and observe the next day. Guess what the recap is at the end of the second day? "Joe, you're not going to believe this. This is the second worst day we've ever had at our plant." And then we go out a third day. I do the 3 days on purpose. At the end of the third day, we get back together and they go, "We got problems." Because when you're looking at a problem, you're looking at a group of mechanics. There's 3 of them working on a gearbox, trying to change out a bearing. And you see that for 2 minutes, you just look it out of the corner of your eye and say, they're just scratching their heads, but they're getting ready to work. They're getting ready to fix that problem. And then you go off. But when you stand there for 8 hours and watch them look for a part or wait for the piece of equipment to be freed up by production or, whatever it happens to be, it's painful. So my first thing I try to do with a plant leadership team is to have them see the power of go and see. It's a total new plant that you didn't even know was there. At first it's a little embarrassing, Greg, just to be honest. It's a little embarrassing to say, "Oh my gosh, look how much waste we have in our maintenance organization." It's not the fault of the employees at all. Okay. But look how much waste we got. But then by the end of the week that I would spend with them, it's actually empowering because you know exactly what to do. And boy, we can make some serious improvements here by giving them the right tools, the right coordination with operations or with the other crafts. Yeah.
So when you do that kind of an exercise, which is like you're describing, it's laborious. They have to do this and not do all the stuff they normally do, and they have to be so patient that they don't intervene or say, "Oh, no, you go like this and that." They just have to observe. Does it really have a high impact on their buy-in to what's about to happen next? Now
Absolutely.
that we see it?
I would say it's career changing. It is so it's a painful emotional event for a leader to sit there and just see how inefficient, they think they're doing pretty good. They want a little help, but then you go out there and say, "Man, this group of mechanics," I don't know why I'm picking on mechanics, but let's say electricians, these guys only did about 30 minutes of productive work, 30 minutes. And they were waiting for 2 hours. They were searching for parts for 2 hours. What? It's life-changing. Or career change is probably a better word. What I found is some plant managers, and I did this myself and shared it with other ones, is saying, "Hey, anytime somebody's making a presentation to change CMMS systems or to change a PM or add people, whatever you want to do, you had to have 16 hours of observation as part of your data set to get on the agenda of the meeting, to get on the agenda, because it changes your decisions. When you go
Mm.
out and observe, you say, hey, here's a best practice. Hey, planning and scheduling is a best practice. We should be doing it. Oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Let's bring in a consultant. Let's spend $30,000 training every single person on how to do planning and scheduling. What should a planning and scheduling meeting look like? How do we decide all these rules? Had asset criticality all lined up for all these pieces of equipment. Oh my gosh, everything has to go in the CMMS. No handwritten post-it notes. Everything's written in CMMS. Let's do all that. Okay. Well, is that the problem at your plant? You need to get there. You need to get this planning and scheduling discipline in place. But if Rome's burning, maybe you put out a couple fires first, before you start new construction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That what this keeps coming back to for me is, for a moment, let's forget about the existence of computerized maintenance management software, right? So that's all fine and good and it's great. But if we didn't have that, we would have to do the exact same thing absent the CMMS. You still have to systematize, at least with a framework, what is your process. And the only way you're going to understand that well enough to design that plan is to get in those trenches, see what's actually happened, and then find a way. This is another thing that I think you're a really, really big fan of is, let's simplify it. We're not neglecting anything. We're simplifying it in such a way that we can get moving and, not get stuck. Because like you said, if Rome is burning and you're not putting out a couple of those fires, it's going to be over quick. And you're going to have a disaster.
And you're going to have a tough time. This is culture change, and you're trying to win over the hearts and minds of the people. Okay, the technicians, the crew leaders, the planners. You're trying to win over their hearts and minds, and the way you win over their hearts and minds is removing some of the things that are in their way of doing a good job. They want to do a good job. How do you remove those things? And that starts with walking a mile in their shoes. Every plant's a little bit different, of what gets in their way. I'll give a real simple one. I was at a plant doing an observation, and they had like 4 work crews were working out of this one shop. And then they had a good toolbox talk at the beginning, about 7:15 in the morning. Everybody was off on their way. And 3 of the 4 crews just sat down. Well, in one of the crews went to this fork truck, grabbed this pump, and went out to their work area. Well, they only had 1 fork truck in the shop. So everybody was waiting on the freaking fork truck. And you may say, oh my gosh, the last crew got the fork truck at 9:30. 9:30. And the reason, I go, what happened? This is crazy, man. I was laughing, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm seeing this. And they say, well, somebody in the truck shop looked at the hours usage on the vehicle and said, hey, we have 3 fork trucks in the shop and they only have like an hour and a half runtime on them a day. So gosh, you can easily go to 1. And you're just like, you've got to be kidding. So some simple things like, guys, rent 2 more fork trucks and your wrench time's going to double. And the crews are going to be happier. You'll get more things done. The equipment will run better. Simple things. That's just an illustration. That one actually cost a little money, but you could also do things like, hey, say you had to keep 1 fork truck. Mm-hmm. Hey, how about on midnight shift? We have if you have a standby electrician, standby mechanic, you can make it part of their job to deliver the parts to the area. Deliver, if you got a gearbox, a pump, a motor that you have to take out to the area, can you take that out there ahead of time? Kind of stage it. I call that kitting and staging. At my plants, one of the first things I did is I created a position called a kidder stager.
Yes.
You got a real senior person, knew how to do everything. He's done everything 10 times. Had him work from 5 to 1, 5 a.m. to 1. He came in 2 hours before everybody else, and he got the mobile crane out there. He got the welder out there. He moved the pump out there. So when the crews had their toolbox talk, they walk out to the area. They got all verified parts, pieces, and equipment out at the job site. Free. We did not hire another person to be that kidder stager. We pulled them out based on the efficiencies to come. So you take people from 10, 15% wrench time, you take them up to 25, you could free up a person. And
Yeah.
this is a funny story. We started putting in this kidder stager, and we had people refuse that didn't want to work overtime on the weekend on a job if the job wasn't kitted and staged. They just said it's so much more rewarding as a mechanic to go out and have everything together, everything I need to do a job out there at the job site. I don't have to go back to the crib. I don't have to look around for parts. Imagine that world. It can be there. If you see it, if you go and see the waste that's in your plant, you'll find these things like a missing fork truck, or, hey, this welder is, it's non-operational, or you need this special tool for the job. All these things get in the way. And it's amazing what happens to the culture when you start eliminating frustrating things.
And when you talk about, I was going to bring that up as one of my next questions. I was just kind of waiting to say, when I'm going to talk about this, because I know you're really passionate about this concept of kidding and having a kidder, because I learned about this about maybe a year and a half ago, where someone was really kind of explaining it to me generally, and I realized that I did understand it without ever having been taught. So full kit or full kitting is, for anybody listening that doesn't know what that is, it's having everything that you need in place before you actually start. And the other things that are being managed in that same exact way means they're going to more naturally create efficiencies. But at first, to set it up and get that kitting going, you have to stop, understand what's really happening, and then figure out. That's the pain you have to go through. You have to go down and see it happening, then figure out how to enable your team with the kitting, like you're saying. And now, once that's done and you've implemented that approach, you're actually getting work done better, faster, so to speak. It doesn't mean you're speeding up the job time. You still want quality work, but you're eliminating all those gaps. And you said in the beginning of our discussions today, you said this is all about eliminating waste.
Yeah.
So if you're going to the tool crib and you're going over here and you're like, oh, I got to wait 45 minutes. You ever watch these shows on TV where they're missing a part or they're missing this and something they didn't plan for? It just disrupts the whole job if they've got a car build out. It's the same thing in manufacturing.
Yeah. And look in your home. You got a job. The other day I had to I had to change out a garbage disposal in the kitchen. Well, who likes going to Home Depot 3 times? who is just having a good old time and say, oh, good, I get to go back to Home Depot for the 3rd time, for the 4th time, because I'm missing this. This doesn't quite fit. Who likes that?
Nobody.
It's just common sense. And imagine the attitude of a mechanic where he's had the jobs without all the right pieces, without all the right parts, without the right tools, without the fork truck, without the aerial crane, and without the lockout tagout procedures every day, 5 days a week for 20 years. Okay, what kind of attitude is there?
A burnt out, angry attitude.
It was like, nobody cares, right? I want to do a good job. But yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. If I had one, magic wand that I could go into the plant and say, Joe, you can only do one thing, I would be pretty wildly successful. if I could put in place a kidder stager. One person that can just sit there and say, hey, I've done this job before. Hey, instead of the 1-ton mobile crane, or instead of the 3-ton mobile crane, bring in the 1-ton. It's much smaller. It's more easily fits in this area. It's just more precision on hey, bring in that 1-ton. And hey, it doesn't say you need this, torque wrench or, this Kroll oil, pair of gloves. Hey, but I'm telling you, you're going to need a pair of gloves. Hey, I love this one too. I stumbled on this. A couple mechanics thought of it. One of the things they had it on a kitted and staged job. Kitted means every single part, including, if you need some sandpaper to sand a shaft or something like that, or you need shims, everything, key stock, anything. You have that job kitted and staged. It's out there at the job. Well, one of the things that this one department was putting on every one of their kits was an empty 2.5-gallon galvanized bucket. And I'm like, what the heck is, why does every one of these kits, I'm looking at this kitting room and they got like 50 kits set up for the, next couple weeks of jobs. And I said, I don't get it. Why do you have an empty bucket? And the mechanic goes, for small parts, when we're taking off little screws, we're taking out the key. I mean, you wouldn't believe how many keys that you take out. You're replacing a motor or a pump or something like that. You take out the key, you set it down, and then you kick it.
Oh, yeah.
And then you go, not on purpose, but you kick this thing. And then you go to the tool crib and we don't have that size. And then you're going across the plant and we don't have this size. Then you order it from town. It comes in, you saw it up, and here, 3 hours later, you've got this key stop. Hey, let's just put an empty galvanized bucket on every kit for your small parts when you're taking things apart. And it's how much does that cost? And what goodwill do you put in place by doing things like that? You get this kidder stager, you have a senior person that everybody respects do it. You start putting things out there like fork trucks and galvanized buckets, and you get production to commit, hey, that overhead crane at 7:30 in the morning, it's parked in bay 22. 7:30, not 7:31, 7:30. Make it there. And then you're like an Indianapolis pit crew. You have the opportunity to do it right. And the people will perform. If you get the process in place, don't worry about the people. They want to do a good job.
Well, and that's it right there. I've said it on previous episodes. I've said it for years. I've said it when I was pushing a broom or turning a wrench and whatever it might be. If you have the stuff you need and, the company, your team, whether it's your boss or anybody, if you make that part of it easy, now I can focus on the work because I want to do good work.
I'm telling you, once you decide that once you figure out that you don't have an employee attitude problem, remember that person I was talking about for 20 years that you've given them half the parts, half the equipment for 20 years, they could be a little crusty. They could, give you some feedback, but I'm telling you, they will change on a dime. If they start seeing things, hey, wait a second. Joe's starting to do things to make my job a little easier. And I like doing a quality job. And then they're going to start saying, hey, here's an idea to make it even better. Here's an idea. Here's, we're changing out this bearing every 6 months. Yeah, we're good at changing out the bearing, but we shouldn't be changing out this bearing. Why don't we try this? Why don't we get the factory rep in here? We used to have another bearing on there that lasted 15 years, but we changed suppliers. You're going to start getting the problem solving along with it. And man, that's when you're on fire. That's when you're on fire as a maintenance organization.
Yeah, because now what you've created the feedback loop. You've created and I think you're passionate about this as well, the right kind of environment for feedback or for like people to have that confidence to do what they do. They don't have to worry that they're being micromanaged. It just creates that culture of moving in in the right
Well,
direction.
I'm showing you, or you as a leader, you're showing that I value you if I value your time. If I assign you 8 hours, Greg, to sit in your office and stare at the wall for 20 years, are you going to feel like a valued employee? I
I
mean,
don't know.
no. So you got to show that hey, I value your time, in your skill, and I respect you. So I'm going to create a process to maximize that, where you can have not only turn the wrenches out there, but have the ideas to, and I can improve your skills, reduce forced overtime. Hey, you got a camping trip with your family this weekend. Oh,
Yeah.
equipment fails. No, need you to work. Um, it all just snowballs from reliability. And the first step in that flywheel of reliability, the first step is knowing what waste you got. And
Yeah.
once you know what waste you got, you start putting in solutions, and the flywheel is freaking turning.
I love it. I love it. So just to kind of, I'm going to take a shot at kind of tying this all back into the CMMS radio kind of concept. So maintenance and reliability seems to me to be at the heart of what we're doing if you're the kind of organization that needs and utilizes a CMMS or something similar to that. You're going to need maintenance and reliability best practices. Fact, because that's going to win the day for you, your team, your employees. And these things that Joe is helping us learn about contribute to that. So the CMMS is a tool. It's not going to solve these problems. The human beings are going to solve the problems. But once that process is in place, now you can start leveraging a platform to help make that even better and make that data available so that people can do assessments and all those things. But it's always going to go back to doing these basic or fundamental best practices really, really well,
Yeah.
whether you have a system or not.
Yeah, I think you get it. The problem I see is most people know the best practices. They could take a test. Hey, I know the best practices won't work in my plant. Or we tried that 2 years ago. Here's what happened. Okay. And that's because, 100%, and I've been in over 40 plants, 40 plants. And what happens is people are implementing tools. They're not understanding the waste and then picking the tool to address that waste.
Ah, yes.
That's the problem. It's you got this tool belt and you say, "Hey, I really like this hammer." so you're hammering bearings, you're hammering gearboxes, you're hammering motors, you're hammering everything. What? No, that's the wrong tool. Know the waste. It all starts with getting out and seeing reality, seeing the waste in the shop floor, and there's no substitute for it. There's you can't get a KPI, you can't go in, you can't get an output from your CMMS that says, hey, here's the problem. It points you in a problem. Hey, we've had this piece of equipment fail 20 times in the last year. Okay, that points you in the direction that you need to go observe. Once you observe, you know what to do.
So that's going to be the real takeaway here is you need to know and understand the waste before you can do anything else, regardless of what you have in place. You got to know the waste. And the only way that's going to happen is if you take this different approach with a go and see culture.
Exactly right, Greg.
I
Exactly
think
right.
I think this is a great takeaway for everyone. One thing I want to make sure of for you, Joe, is that people know how to get in touch with you. And what I was thinking is sharing that they can email you at lean driven reliability at gmail.com so that they can get a conversation going. And they also, one of the things you can do when you're working with Joe is you can get results without the wait and really with no upfront investment because of the way he does this. Is that
Yeah.
is that a fair statement?
That's 100% accurate. That's one of the things that I've brought to the conversation is so many reliability maintenance best practice deployments. Oh, this takes 3 years, big investment up front. should get some return year 4. Well, by knowing your waste and applying the tool to the waste, I've seen dramatic change in a month. In a month. And you can't go to your plant manager and say, hey, give me $500,000. I want to put in some maintenance best practices. And in about 4 years, I think we'll get our money back.
Yeah.
Don't have that conversation. It won't go well.
No.
So that's really why I've crafted this process of, going and seeing and applying the tools to the waste, is because I had to. I didn't have a choice. I wasn't sitting in a classroom saying what would be a nice way to deploy this. I'm like, getting beat over the head to, get more efficient, get more product out, reduce costs, improve quality. And I was getting eaten alive by, the reliability of the equipment. And I needed a solution where I could start to get results in weeks, not years. And this works. I've been doing this for, like you said, decades. If people want to send an email, that works. You can look at me in LinkedIn, just type Joe Kuhn on LinkedIn. Kuhn is my last name, and all my contact stuff is there. If you go on YouTube, you could type in Reliability Man, or you could type in Joe Kuhn, and my face will come up. The other thing on that I want to mention, Greg, is I do have playlists like inside of YouTube. So like you can sit there and say, hey, we need to drive culture change. Or I want to improve my career. I'm in reliability maintenance community. I want to improve my career. So I got like a career advice playlist you could just poke on, and there may be like 75 videos in there that, are between 1 minute. I got some 1 minute videos for people that are busy, and, maybe up to maybe 15 minutes or something like that, with an average somewhere around 8. But yeah, if you look for me, you'll find me. Okay.
Yeah. And I really want to thank you for the time today. This has been really fun for me, and I think there's going to be some good stuff in here for anybody that listens to it and those that might watch it. I think people listen more than they watch, but I just want to thank you for taking the time to impart some of your wisdom and experience and give us this encouragement and kind of a clue as to where to look to make these improvements. So thank you very much.
Well, thanks, Greg. Well, I'm like you. I got a little gray hair, and that's not from doing everything right during my career. So I'm committed to the next generation of saying, hey, guys, it took me 32 years to learn all these things. Stand on my shoulders and do great things. Don't do things the long way, right? And I mean, that's why I make the videos.
Absolutely. You got to be a net contributor, right?
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot,
awesome.
Greg.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Did you find this episode helpful? Please send us some feedback, suggest a topic, or ask a question. Reach out to CMMS Radio if you need a co-pilot on your CMMS project. Visit CMMSradio.com and use the What's on Your Mind link. Thank you for tuning in to CMMS Radio, your resource for all things CMMS, from selection to implementation, to help you make better choices, learn from industry experts, and have a successful CMMS journey.